Okay, let's talk a bit about Sea of Thieves. This is a game that I don't like a whole lot, and it's not because I think it's bad. I think this game is incredibly mediocre, and to me that's one of the biggest sins you can commit when making a video game, especially at like a $60, $70 price point. And yes, that is what I paid for this game. I wanted to see what you get when you spend $60 to $70, and I realize you can get it for like, well, what is it, $10 a month with that Microsoft monthly program. I didn't want to do that because I don't really have any interest in paying for a subscription service from Microsoft because I don't really play a lot of their games. I don't have an Xbox, I just game on my PC, and honestly, the Microsoft Store is hell to deal with, so I was like, okay, I'm just gonna try to buy this game outright, and boy, do I feel like I wasted my money. There is nothing to do in this game that's worth talking about. Like, even the bad games I cover on my channel, there's usually stuff to talk about in them, but this one, like, the gameplay loop is so shallow in this, and I realize that's super ironic to say about a game where you're sailing the deep seas, all that type of stuff, but yeah, like, you go from island to island, you find some treasure chests, you dig them up, maybe you fight some skeletons or players on the way. That's it. There's not even creative ways to do any of that. You got a blunderbuss, you got a sword, you can fire cannons. Yeah. That's pretty much all the weapons you have in the game. There's some explosive barrels you can put on other people's ships, I guess, but that's all there is. It's really disappointing. And it's not to say that everything in this game is bad. There's some really good little bits in it, like actually sailing your ship, and the water effects are probably the best I've ever seen in a video game, but it's all wrapped around this clear saran wrap that's nothing. It doesn't, none of it is held together by solid mechanics. There's the bare bones of what I would consider a video game that's worth maybe even like $25, much less $60 or $70, which again is what I paid for it. It's really not a good scenario. This game reminds me a lot of No Man's Sky, and I realize that's going to probably annoy a lot of people saying, no, this is a better game than No Man's Sky. It's actually got multiplayer, you don't know what you're talking about. And I just mean that in the way that, like, I'm doing things, but I'm doing the same damn thing every time, but the game is trying to convince me that what I'm doing is different than what I did before, but it's really not. What you're seeing is basically what you do in the game. You either, like, steer your ship over to an island, then you dig stuff up, then bring it back to one of the outposts and try to sell it, or maybe you fight some skeletons, maybe a couple players show up and chase you, or you get into a quick cannon battle. That's all I've done in like 5 or 6 hours, and it's really disheartening. The most annoying part to me is there's all these moments in this game where I'm thinking to myself, wow, wouldn't it be cool if I could do this, or if this was a feature in the game? But it's not, and I'm just standing there like, wow, this is way more boring than being a pirate and sailing around with a bunch of other people should be. There's so much in this game where it's multiplayer, but it doesn't feel like multiplayer is a focus in the game at all, to the point where I question whether or not having the game as multiplayer only was even a good idea. Would it have been better to make this game maybe co-op at the most, and then having all the other players and all the other ships on the sea be NPCs? Because what is the point of having multiplayer if you can't do any meaningful interaction with them, or you can't do anything other than fight? Because that's all you do in this game. There's no reason to not shoot on sight as soon as you see an enemy or another player. It's very bare bones, and I don't feel like it does a good job of making you feel like you're in a living world. The only NPCs other than the skeleton enemies and the chickens and pigs that run around are the ones that stand in the outposts and barely say anything. They'll whistle to themselves, they'll hum to themselves, but other than that, it again reminds me very much of No Man's Sky, when you'd run into like the one alien on a planet that was like sapient that you could talk to, and they would just like ramble off a couple lines, then shoo you away, and you couldn't do anything else. It really feels like that to me, and I can't stand it at all. And like I said, the players don't help with this, because all you can do if they're not in your crew is fight them. There's no reward for interacting with other people that are outside of your crew, even within your crew. All you have to do is go and like go to an island together and dig up some stuff, then sell it. Then everyone gets the same amount of money. There's not a whole lot to reward you for role-playing or trying to, like, you know, be a pirate and have fun or make your own fun. You just kind of do the bare bones and then hope you get lots of money so you can get a fancier beard. And I don't know, maybe I was expecting too much going into it, but when I see a game that looks so good and has some really solid sailing mechanics and is multiplayer focused, it'd be really nice if there was other things in the game where you could say, maybe team up with other crews and other players as like a pirate posse and take out like a trading voyage of NPCs that are going from one outpost to another, and interact in more meaningful ways than firing your damn cannonballs at people. And of course, leave that as an option as well, but implement like a really good bounty system in the game where if you are doing solely PvP, you'll be marked on the map for other people and stuff, and maybe you'll get some bonuses to like your speed or maybe your ship's damage and stuff like that to make it worthwhile to do PvP, but also maybe give the people that want to hunt you down some gold bonuses or reputation bonuses if they manage to take out your ship. Stuff like that. There needs to be ways for people to interact and reasons to interact that aren't just, oh, maybe this guy has something on his ship that I can use, but he probably doesn't because he knows that if anyone else sees me, they're just going to try to kill me, take my stuff anyway, so the only thing you can do in the game is like go over to the islands as quickly as you can, get your stuff, and then put it up in the crow's nest, which makes no sense anyways, then as quickly as you can again, take it back to the outpost to sell it. There's no reason to hold on to loot. You can't open up the chests or anything. You literally just give them to an NPC, and then they give you gold that you can't steal from other people. It's all so lame. And again, I don't want to be too harsh on this game because I do think it has some really cool elements in it. Like, I think it looks amazing. I think the water effects and the ocean, like I said earlier, is the best I've ever seen in a video game, probably, but it has nothing else, and that really makes me disappointed more than anything. You get a little initial feeling of wanderlust when you start up the game for the first time, and you go to a couple islands, and then you realize there's nothing on there. There's nothing to interact with unless you get one of the maps that'll tell you where the chests are that you have to dig up. You can't find anything aside from planks, bananas, and cannonballs. It's really boring. I very much feel like I'm playing an alpha of a game rather than a full release, and I realize there are plans to introduce new things like fishing and whaling and stuff, but to me, it's too little too late. I mean, this is really a full released product. You're charging the full amount of money. You haven't labeled it as early access forms of anything, but it still feels like it's not even in the beta stages aside from maybe the polish and most of the mechanics, and that's ignoring things like server issues and all this other stuff that's been plaguing the game since release as well. That's still going on. I still have to log in maybe 2 or 3 times half the time just to even play the game. And when you add that on top of everything else too, it makes it a chore to play and not enjoyable in the least. Like raiding forts, fighting skeletons and players and krakens, it's all the same. You just fire cannonballs or shoot at it till it dies. You feel like once you've done it once, you've done it 1,000 times. Well, that works in a game where it's very focused on PvP. This game is too open to be entirely solely focused on that PvP aspect. You can go an hour without seeing another player, and then when you do encounter them, it's like maybe a 2-minute thing, and then you're back to boring stuff again. And that's a big criticism about games like Rust and other survival games on the market as well, but at least in those ones there's a big community, there's servers, there's mods, there's all this other stuff going on with it that makes it more enjoyable, where in this one you're plopped into a random server, you have no way of knowing how many other players there are, there's really nothing you can do until you see them, and you don't know if you're gonna see other things, and then when you're not encountering players, you're only sailing to islands that have nothing on them. God, this is a really pessimistic video, so let me explain to you some of the good moments I've had in Sea of Thieves, because there have been some. It's been few and far between, but it's been really cool when it happens. So when I first started up the game, I did run into another player who had his own sloop as well. They're like the small little ships that you sail around on, and when I did, the dude wasn't in my crew or anything, and he hopped over onto my boat, and he was like, yo, what's up? And I was like, yo, what's up? We gonna be pirate bros? And he was like, yeah. So we took my sloop, and we just went on like a little mini adventure with each other. And that was really cool, because it was something completely random that only a multiplayer interaction can give you. But the problem with it was that I couldn't invite him to my crew. He wasn't in it, so we didn't get any bonuses or any of the stuff we did. And the game basically punished us for not killing on sight. And again, It's stuff like that and those types of moments that really annoy me. Other cool interactions are when you join a multiplayer crew and they're doing some proper roleplay. Like, I went into a couple crews and all I did was go, "Yar!" the entire time, whenever they talked to me. I was a pirate that only said "Yar." That was great. Then we all got drunk off our grog and had a fun time. The problem was we weren't really using the game's mechanics, we were making our own fun in a tiny little sandbox. And that's kinda it. The two best parts about Sea of Thieves had nothing to do with Sea of Thieves and have more to do with me interacting with random people on the internet. And I don't really think that's a great option to base your game around because it makes it very difficult to, you know, support your game when you're not playing with other people. It makes it very difficult to have fun when there's not other people who are also willing to have fun with you, who just want to go and shoot you when you're trying to sell your stuff, or you don't see anyone for an hour, and you're sailing on the water completely alone, no NPCs around, nothing. Yeah, Sea of Thieves is a giant disappointment to me. It gives me a couple moments of, oh, that's kind of neat, but beyond that, there's nothing going on. I think I'm done talking about this game. It annoys me, so, yeah.